imagine you are a detective and you sit down at your desk.
Right.
And right in front of you is this stack of, well, seemingly unconnected files. I mean, we're talking a municipal zoning dispute over the legal definition of a walk-in closet, a police report about a stolen replica Super Bowl ring.
A completely random assortment.
Completely random. There's also the criminal rap sheet of a fugitive with a skull tattoo and like a faded 1972 cold case file.
Yeah, quite the mix you brought us.
Exactly. So what if I told you that these entirely unrelated random documents are actually the key to understanding the hidden mechanics of human behavior?
I mean, it sounds like the setup to a noir thriller or something.
It really does.
But it's actually a brilliant way to approach public records because we tend to view administrative paperwork as just a dry bureaucratic trail of data.
Right, just boring forms.
Yeah, exactly. But if you know how to read it, it acts as a community's subconscious. It tells you what they actually care about.
Which is exactly our mission for you today. You shared this wild, really diverse stack of sources with us, spanning from local North Carolina beach towns to a wanted poster in New Hampshire, all the way to a missing persons database.
It's a fascinating cross-section.
It is, and we're going to act as your guides to decipher what these documents actually reveal. So welcome to the deep dive.
Glad to be here for this one.
Because beneath the boring bureaucratic language, we are going to uncover how communities try to control physical space, the bizarre underground economy of coastal resort towns, and the strange colliding digital footprints our names leave behind.
And I think the framework we need to use as we go through this is to look at these records as a battle between order and human nature.
Okay, I like that. Order versus nature.
Yeah. You can see exactly what a community fears and what it values just by looking at the specific rules it writes down.
Okay, let's unpack this, because the best place to start is the absolute baseline of order, right?
Yeah.
The rules that govern physical space.
The literal groundwork.
Exactly. In the October and November 2020 Town of Nags Head Planning Board minutes, there is this agonizingly detailed debate happening.
Agonizing is the right word.
Over the definition of a furniture store versus a furniture showroom.
And, on the surface, that sounds trivial, like who cares?
I have to admit, my initial thought reading that was literally, who cares?
Right. But the core conflict driving this debate is a fear of unchecked storage. The town is desperately trying to figure out how much incidental storage space is allowed before retail space essentially stops being a shop.
And just silently transforms into a warehouse.
Exactly. It's about preserving the character of the street.
But it's also about geometry and asphalt, isn't it? Because the zoning dictates the parking.
Oh, absolutely. The math is wild.
I was looking at the numbers. A showroom requires 1 parking space per 500 square feet. But a traditional store requires 1 per 250 square feet.
Double the parking.
Yeah. So, by flipping a single word in a town ordinance, from showroom to store, you are demanding a business pave over twice as much land. It's like arguing over whether a walk-in closet with a bed in it is a bedroom or a storage unit.
That is a great analogy. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, zoning laws are essentially a town's immune system.
Wait, an immune system, like protecting against a disease?
Sort of, yeah. A coastal community like Nags Head relies on a very fragile aesthetic and environmental balance. They use these hyper-specific definitions to physically control the footprint of commercial bloat.
Oh, I see.
They're trying to limit traffic density, stormwater runoff, noise, all the things that ruin a resort town.
But are you saying a town views new businesses and tourists as a virus?
Yeah.
Because, they rely on that tourist revenue to survive.
It's more about protecting the host from being overwhelmed by the very thing feeding it.
Ah, okay. That makes sense.
You see this tension elsewhere, in the exact same meeting minutes, actually. The board debates how to regulate event homes.
Oh, right. Those massive residential houses that get rented out for beachfront weddings.
Exactly. The board is arguing over whether they should govern them by a strict town ordinance or just a loose general policy.
Because a wedding in a residential neighborhood fundamentally changes the nature of that street.
It completely upends it.
You suddenly have, catered vans, loud music, and 40 cars parked on a cul-de-sac. It's a commercial event masquerading as a residential weekend.
Precisely. The town is constantly citing to preserve its identity. You even see it in their scramble to draft new outdoor lighting regulations.
Yes, the Sugar Kingdom issue.
Yeah, this new commercial spot called the Sugar Kingdom opened up, And their modern LED lighting was apparently so intense it disrupted the town's visual ecosystem.
Just blasting the neighborhood with light.
Right, so the board had to react quickly to update the rules just to maintain the nighttime aesthetic.
But, you spend all this energy, all this time in municipal brainpower zoning a perfectly manicured, affluent resort town, and what happens?
You inadvertently build a target.
Exactly. You build a perfect buffet for criminals. The strict zoning creates the exact affluent environment that attracts predators.
That reality is abundantly clear in the Dare County and Kill Devil Hills crime blotters we reviewed.
It really is.
A resort town creates a unique, highly polarized criminal landscape. It's a fascinating split between the utterly lazy and the highly organized.
Let's start with the lazy, because the statistics here are just staggering. The local police had to issue a community warning about vehicle break-ins where weapons were stolen.
And what did that warning reveal?
It revealed that 90% of those firearms were taken from unlocked cars. 90%.
It perfectly illustrates the false sense of security people have when they cross the town line into a vacation destination.
People just leave their brains at home.
Yeah, the psychology of a vacation town is relaxation. Visitors and even locals just drop their guard. They leave expensive firearms on the passenger seat and don't even press the lock button on their key fob.
Which is wild to me.
The thieves know this, though. They aren't picking locks or breaking glass. They're just walking down quiet streets in the dark, checking door handles.
But the laziness of the break-ins is completely overshadowed by the high strangeness of what is actually being stolen.
The items are so bizarre.
Right. We aren't talking about loose change and phone chargers. In Manteo High School, someone stole a blue marlin mount, a massive taxidermy fish.
Who steals a taxidermy fish?
I don't know. And then, at a residence in the Bombay neighborhood, a thief took a replica Pittsburgh Steelers Super Bowl ring with Ben Roethlisberger's name on it.
And in Nag's Head, thieves ripped an entire floor safe completely out of a Subway restaurant.
Okay, stop right there. To rip a floor safe out of a commercial restaurant requires serious mechanical force.
So it's not a subtle crime.
No. And then, in Kill Devil Hills, a single rental home was broken into, and the thieves took 16 Samsung flat-screen televisions.
Which is an entirely different caliber of crime compared to pulling a door handle.
Exactly. Here's where it gets really interesting, though, because stealing 16 flat screens requires a logistical supply chain.
You don't just walk away with 16 TVs.
Right. You don't put 16 TVs in the back of a Honda Civic. You need a box truck. You need a crew. You need a scout to know which rental home is unoccupied between weekly turnovers.
It requires deep local knowledge.
So I have to ask, are these crimes of opportunity? Or is there a highly organized underground operating right under the noses of the zoning board?
What's fascinating here is the sheer breadth of the criminal ecosystem.
How do you mean?
Well, you have chaotic, impulsive thefts like stealing a high school's taxidermy marlin, which has absolutely zero black market resale value and is purely like an ego-driven rivalry crime.
Right, totally opportunistic.
But operating on the exact same streets, you have incredibly sophisticated targeted operations.
Like the Publishers Clearinghouse scam in Kitty Hawk?
Exactly. This wasn't a smash and grab. This was pure psychological manipulation. Scammers targeted an elderly woman, convincing her she had won $2.5 million and a brand new car.
But of course, the catch was she needed to provide $10,000 up front to pay the taxes on her winnings.
Right, which is a classic scam structure.
Very common. But the mechanics of how they hooked her are terrifying. They didn't just isolate the victim, they actively compromised a legitimate local business to build trust.
This part is so insidious.
It really is. The scammers called Outer Banks Chevrolet, pretending to be the woman's nephew. They fed the dealership a story like, hey, I'm buying a car for my aunt as a surprise. When she comes in, let her test drive this specific model, but don't ruin the secret.
It's a brilliant use of triangulation.
How so?
Well, when the victim goes to the dealership, the sales staff treats her like royalty. She test drives the exact car the scammers promised her over the phone. The physical reality of the dealership validates the lie told by the scammer.
Oh, wow.
Her belief is completely cemented by unwitting participants. It ultimately took a teller at a local bank intervening to stop her from wiring the $10,000.
Thank goodness for that teller. And while that psychological warfare is happening to retirees, you have reports of targeted, recurring arson against a business called Albemarle Landscaping.
Right, the landscaping company.
We're talking multiple vehicles set on fire and tires slashed across different jurisdictions. It reads like corporate warfare.
The public records show us a community fighting a war on multiple contradictory fronts. Federal issues even bleed in, like the $2,500 reward posted for a poached, radio-collared endangered red wolf.
It's incredible. We use these municipal laws to carve out safe physical footprints in the world, but the human element always introduces chaos.
It always does.
Which brings us to a different kind of footprint. The physical world is one thing, but the digital footprints we leave behind in public records create a completely surreal reality.
Oh, this part of the deep dive is mind-bending.
It is. I want to talk about the anomaly in the documents you provided, the Brandon Bostwick multiverse.
Yes. Across 3 entirely disconnected sources in your stack, the exact same name, Brandon Bostwick, appears in radically different contexts.
Let's lay out the shards of this broken mirror. Shard number 1. In the Currituck and Dare County Public Records, Detective Brandon Bostwick is an active law enforcement officer.
A cop.
He is a narcotics investigator, he's taking reports on local break-ins, and he is actively working credit card fraud cases. He is an agent of order.
Okay, then we look at a completely separate document, a New Hampshire Department of Corrections file.
Okay, shard number 2.
Here we find Brandon Michael Bostwick, a 35-year-old wanted fugitive. He is absconded from probation and carries a massive rap sheet spanning over a decade, including charges for being a felon with a dangerous weapon, child endangerment, escape, theft, and drugs.
The New Hampshire file even details his tattoos. Praying hands with a rosary, a skull with a woman's face and a rose, and the word respect.
Very specific details.
So we have the detective tracking down criminals and the fugitive running from the law. But then there's a third document, shard number 3.
A film analysis presentation hosted on the digital platform Prezi, authored by Brandon Bostwick.
And it isn't just any film analysis, it is a meticulous frame-by-frame breakdown of the cinematography in a specific scene from the movie The Silence of the Lambs.
Out of all the movies.
Right. And it's the scene where the FBI agent, Clarice Starling, breaks into a dark, abandoned storage unit and discovers a severed head in a jar hidden inside an antique car.
The thematic resonance here is almost poetic.
Right. We started this deep dive exploring how the Nags Head Planning Board fears and debates the legal definition of storage units.
Treating them as dead space that drains the life of the town.
Exactly. And now we have a film student sharing the exact same name as our detective, and our fugitive analyzing the psychological terror of a scene set entirely inside a storage unit, a place where dark things are hidden.
It's like looking at a shattered mirror. Each individual piece reflects a perfectly clear image of a Brandon Bostwick.
Yeah, but because the overarching context of who these people actually are is stripped away by the clinical nature of public records, our brains try to glue them all together.
Right. Glue the cop, the fugitive, and the film student into a single Frankenstein narrative.
It breaks your brain a little bit. It's like flipping through TV channels and seeing the exact same actor playing a real-life cop, then a wanted fugitive on the news, and then a film student giving a lecture.
And it's important to state impartially that these are almost certainly 3 completely different human beings who simply share a name.
Oh, absolutely. Definitely different people.
But exploring why this coincidence is so magnetic is crucial. Our brains are biologically hardwired to seek narrative consistency.
We want things to make sense.
We crave a beginning, a middle, and an end. We want the detective to be hunting the fugitive or the film student to be the secret identity of the cop. Public archives, however, don't care about our need for a story.
They just coldly document data points.
Exactly. They strip away the humanity and leave us with floating coordinates. When we see the same name attached to a badge, a rap sheet, and an art project, we desperately want to connect them into one coherent truth, even when logic dictates we shouldn't.
It makes you realize how fragile our identities become once they are digitized and filed away in municipal basements or server farms.
We just become data points.
We are nothing but keywords to a search engine. But as unsettling as those digital footprints are, they eventually led us to the most somber and haunting document in your stack.
Yeah, this one is heavy.
A physical footprint that vanished entirely.
Yes. We are talking about the Charlie Project missing person file for Mary Lou Bostwick. This is an investigative trail that went cold over 50 years ago.
Mary Lou was 15 years old. On July 17, 1972, she went missing from Waverly, New York. And the physical mechanics of her disappearance are completely baffling.
Baffling is an understatement. According to the archives, her father dropped her off at a friend's apartment on Broad Street. She's supposed to be babysitting.
Okay, so she arrives at the building.
Right. 3 days later, her mother goes to the apartment carrying a cake and presents, intending to surprise Mary Lou for her 16th birthday.
Just heartbreaking.
But the occupants of the apartment tell the mother that Mary Lou never arrived.
She never arrived. But here is the detail that breaks your brain from an investigative standpoint. Her belongings, a grocery bag containing her change of clothes, were found inside the apartment.
It presents an impossible physical contradiction. If the father dropped her off and she never made it inside, how did her luggage cross the threshold?
Did someone intercept her at the door?
Did she drop the bag inside and immediately leave again?
So, what does this all mean? From an investigative standpoint, how do you even begin to process a scene like this in 1972?
It was a completely different era for law enforcement.
Today, police would pull her cell phone pings, check the GPS history, and pull ring camera footage from every house on Broad Street. But in 1972, they had none of that.
They had to rely entirely on human memory and neighborhood canvassing, which, as we know, are notoriously unreliable.
Right.
The mother, desperate for answers, went to incredible lengths to raise a $162 reward.
Such a highly specific and significant sum for a family to scrape together at that time.
It really emphasizes the desperation.
The file also notes a suspected link to a man named Gerald Paul McKenna. A year after Mary Lou vanished, McKenna was convicted of raping and murdering another 16-year-old girl, Sharon Costin, just a few miles away in Sarah, Pennsylvania.
This raises an important question about the enduring, haunting power of archived information. When we looked at the Nag's Head meeting minutes earlier, those were active records.
Right, they were changing things in real time.
Exactly. They led to immediate civic action zoning changes, new ordinances, asphalt being poured. But this Charlie Project file is entirely different. It is a static, frozen loop.
It's an open wound preserved in amber.
Beautifully put, yes. It offers clues, like the grocery bag, and the terrifying proximity to a known killer. But it offers absolutely no resolution.
Not at all.
It exists purely to hold space for a human being who is lost. It ensures that even though the physical investigation hit a wall 50 years ago, Mary Lou's absence remains a permanent matter of public record today. She is not forgotten by the archive.
That is a profoundly heavy realization. The things we write down, the municipal minutes, the police reports, the cold cases, they all serve as an anchor for our existence.
Think about your own digital and public footprint today. We leave trails everywhere, in property deeds, on social media, in the minutes of local town halls, in the digital metadata of our lives.
It's everywhere.
If an archivist 100 years from now gathered all the public records, arrest warrants, or online presentations containing your exact name, what kind of fragmented, contradictory story would they piece together?
Wow.
Would they see the real you? Or would they just see a ghost in the data, a Frankenstein monster built from the coincidences of strangers who happen to share your name?
That is exactly what you need to take away from this. We spend so much time curating our lives for the people around us, but the archives are entirely indifferent to our personal narratives.
They just collect the pieces.
So the next time you walk past a zoning board notice stapled to a telephone pole or read a bizarre local headline about a stolen fish, don't just yawn and walk away. Look closer. Ask yourself what hidden fears and unseen logistics are operating right beneath the surface of your own neighborhood.
Always look closer.
Thank you so much for bringing us this incredible stack of sources. Keep pulling on those loose threads in the public record, and we'll see you next time on The Deep Dive.